Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where we discuss all the things to do with the market, that is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to hopefully make some or a lot of money on the internet, no matter what is going on in the world. Loaded up for discussion today. We have a variety of bits of news. Trump left the G7 summit early. Iran and Israel continue to exchange strikes, and part of the US-UK tariff deal is done. We'll get you up to speed with what you need to know there. In addition, Tron announces plan to go public via reverse merger. So we'll talk about that. So that's pretty big news given Justin Sun's previous position of being investigated by the SEC. And then finally, the final headline for the day will be JPMorgan files for a stablecoin. We'll also be talking about price action in general, sentiment in general. We do seem to be taking a little bit of a dip today, but we will talk about all of those things and more in just a little bit. Delighted to say I've got Legendary and Rahim in the co-host seats with me today. But before we get to it, just a reminder, friends, that nothing we say here is financial advice. The market is very, very risky, and we, unfortunately, cannot be certain of anything. It's very risky out there. Please proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Rahim, it's Tuesday. It's the 17th of June. How you doing?
GM, everybody. Been good. It's been a good, crazy week with like a lot of things happening in the world, in the markets. But I'm loving it. I feel like the positive side, all the institutional stuff, all the stablecoin stuff that's happening in this space. I still think the fact that I literally can't stop thinking about the fact that we have like these stablecoin payments coming to like Shopify and things like that. Was speaking to someone from Lebanon and Egypt, and they were like completely like on board with that, and like they were just like essentially talking about that. Oh, this is one of the first time. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback.
We'll just test that out, Ryan. Just go on. Are you good?
I think it should be fine now.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it's fine now. Yeah, so essentially we were just like talking about that, how like a lot of these friends of mine who've been like holding like stable coins, like finally will have like a way to make like these payments and like, use these products and services. So I think that's been like pretty awesome. And I just think like, just going back to our earlier conversation right before the show, I just think like there's so much happening in this space. You have like so many different like AI agent ecosystem. You have like so many different chains. You have stable coin ecosystems launching. So yeah, I just think it's been fun and exciting. I'm looking forward to our show today.
Agree. I think there's a lot of stuff going on. Interesting. The thing I've been thinking about overnight is the conversation we had yesterday with Legendary being like, I mean, I've been seeing things so clearly, and Ledge has been like, had the cautionary side of that, which is right. Let's not get too proud about the way that you're kind of seeing the market at the moment. But I do agree with you. There do seem to be like nice pockets which are doing well. You've got Hyperliquid, you've got stablecoins, you've got some other ones that are coming too. Let's go to, before we go on then, Ledge, before.
Dude, you nailed it on Hyperliquid though.
Yes.
You actually made me a nice little extra W. So I had bought Hyperliquid massively at 38 point something dollars. Did go up to 44, 45 yesterday. And we spoke yesterday after the show, and we spoke exactly about that. And you said, you need to look at things day to day in this kind of market. And maybe the right move is to sell Hyperliquid yesterday, and maybe the right move is to buy it again the day after. And I ended up doing exactly that. So thank you.
You're welcome. And when we say that, though, by the way, like the slightly more nuanced conversation we had was something like, we have significant spot bags of Hyperliquid.
Yep.
We have maybe a different account where we're just like doing more day trading style stuff. And as Legendary said, he had bought Hyperliquid on one of those accounts for like 38. I had bought Hyperliquid on one of those accounts for me at 41. And it's like, it's gone to 44, 44.5. When you do that with a reasonable amount, suddenly that can actually add up to a material amount. Even if it's only 10 to 15%, that can be quite a lot of cold cash. So I think for that specific account, it made sense to sell yesterday. I haven't touched my spot bags. They're kind of all around the Hyper EVM as well. doing various things. But for that specific account, I think it was good. I actually did the same, Ledge, but I actually bought back a little bit too early yesterday with half. Then I bought again this morning at 40 or whatever it is now, like 40.6 or something. So I actually bought some of it back already because I just want to play the bounces, wait for Hyperliquid to come in, the assistance.
I love
fund
how we
to
all
come in.
played the same game. I did the same thing. And I think this just goes back to like, we were talking about it like last show, that if with like the new like administration, sure, like everything has been super positive and obviously keeping all like the war related stuff, that a lot of dips in these markets have been for buying. So you buy like, like a good positive sentiment in the market, and there's usually something that's happening that like gives you better dips and stuff. So I love the fact that we all kind of played the same game and we all took profits and we all bought back. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, arguably, I guess I'm a little bit impatient sometimes. Like, arguably, I could have waited a bit longer. I'm not sure. When we check the prices, we'll see where Hype's at now. Where's Hype at now, Ledge?
Give me 1 sec. 40.2.
40.2. Okay, so could have been more patient, basically. But not to worry. The assistance fund will come and save my rebuy back in. Phunky, your hand is raised. Welcome to the stage, my man. Good to have you with us. What is your early take?
GM, super quick note, a couple things. That Crypto Haze new one it's all about stable coins. And knowing you guys have been talking about Plasma, the Circle IPO, everything else, I dropped it in the comments for anybody who's interested and who hasn't read the Haze essay. But very, very good, and just brought it up, the whole stable coins and payments, stuff like that. So I wanted to at least call that out.
Yeah, good stuff. I've just seen it. I am going to bookmark it and put it in a separate tab for me to have a read maybe overnight, and we can come back to it in tomorrow's show because I've got a different discussion for today. So I appreciate you sharing, Funk. I'm going to have a read of that in a little bit. Let's just get into it then, guys. Let's get into it. I've got a conversation I really, really want to have today about where we are in the market before we get into the headlines. So let's get everyone up to speed first, and then we will have that conversation starting with the majors as usual. We've got everything just a touch red today, although even in that kind of market, Bitcoin is down just 8%, $105,000. ETH is down a couple to 2.5. XRP is flat at $2.20. BNB is flat at 654. Solana is down 3% to $150. Tron is up a couple of percent. Well, I'm not sure if it's unsurprisingly. If they're going to reverse IPO, I don't know what that means for the token necessarily. But we'll touch on that a little bit later with the kind of the news that they're going to be going public in the US. Hyperliquid is down. Probably, when it goes up, it's up the most, and when it goes down the most at the moment. It's down 8% to $40.30. And Sui is down 5% to $2.90. That was as high as $4 not so long ago. So that's obviously taken a bit of a hit too. Getting into the meme coin side of things, we have Doge down 3%, Pepe down 8%, Trump down 5%, SPX down 15%, still up 1% on the week, whereas everything else is now very, very red on the week. Fartcoin is down 8%, Bonk is down 7%, Whiff's down 8%, Pudgy Pengu is down 4%. A lot of red. Mog is down 7%. Red everywhere. If you want me to summarize, even Rect is down 11% this week, although that is still up 10% on the week in general because it's been performing super strongly. Per Hyperliquids, one of the main memes on Hyperliquid is down 20% as well today. Getting into the headlines.
Aura still holding up. It's still at 140 M. Yes, it's down 25%, but this thing is still holding up pretty well. It's insane.
Do you know anything else we need to know about this one, Ledge? Just the weekly runner or something? What do we need to know, if anything?
I don't think there's much to know about it, to be honest.
It's just the one that worked. Yeah, it's hard to spin up stories for why things are successful at the moment. It's just every now and again something will run. I know one ran last week because it was meant to be like, what was it, like the launch pad of an official gaming? I might even just be making this up now at this point.
There were a lot of tokens last week. Like the moment like this whole Aura thing happened, there were so many charts I was sharing in a group where literally it was like down only sitting at like 100K cap, and they pumped to like 2-3 million. Everyone trying to find the beta play for Aura. So like a lot of people are playing these games. You guys, you just have to be like very mindful of that. Like if you missed the boat on something, yeah, don't try to chase things like that.
Yeah, I'm finding it uncomfortable. Like I've moved away from going in at something under low few million market cap to try and get it to 7 or 8 or even 20. Like it's just not a game I'm finding, well, not a game I'm playing at the moment anyway. Getting into the headlines themselves, as we said at the top, just a reminder, we'll be talking about these in a bit more detail. Trump's left the G7 summit early. Iran and Israel continue to exchange strikes. And part of the US-UK tariff deal is done. So we'll do a bit of a macro roundup in a little bit. We've got Tron announcing the plan to go public via reverse merger. So we'll discuss what that means in a moment. And then finally, JPMorgan's filed for a stablecoin. So some notable price action, hype's down 10% to about $40. Bitcoin Cash, oddly, is up 5% to 9.4 billion FTV. And Sundog, the Justin Sun meme, is up 10%. Unsurprisingly, that's one of the only winners on the day. I found that kind of entertaining. Ledge, is there anything we need to know on the NFT side?
Actually, not really. Basically, the trend that I pointed out yesterday continues. Majors are slowly bleeding. Basically, everything is down between 1.5 to 2 or 3%. The only thing that's doing really well is CryptoPunks are holding up nicely. And as you also pointed out in the snapshot, we have that spree of X copy sales still going on. Another Sam spread, Mask of Lucy, that also sell. So it seems like there's more volume, more movement on the art side of things. But as concerns the majors for NFTs, they're slowly bleeding over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, when ETH is not strong, it feels like a lot of the life gets taken out of the alts.
Yeah.
And including NFTs, actually.
Have you looked into this like Plush Pepes that are running on Tron? I came across this yesterday. I had no idea. They
on
were
Telegram,
like apparently.
no? It's on Tron.
Yeah,
or on
apparently they're on Telegram. Sorry, on Ton. They are apparently selling for like $12,000-$13,000 each. That makes it like, that puts it higher than like a lot of like the top Ethereum NFTs. I had no idea. Of course, like these Ton NFTs and these stickers have been like on a massive rise. Like some of these stickers have been selling for like 5x, 10x right out of the gate. And I came across this Pepe plushes or Plush Pepes, whatever they are called. Absolutely insane. Yeah.
All right. So what are we looking at here for the people who are listening in, Rahim or Legendary? You found some marketplace here. What are we investigating?
So I believe you can find them on OpenSea as well, because I saw someone put, or maybe I'm wrong. No. So they are trading at like, 5.3K a ton, 5.1, which equates to around like $14,000. That puts it above like Mutant Apes, Doodles, a bunch of these NFT ecosystems.
God. Okay. That's pretty cool. It was on my radar. I didn't realize they'd got that expensive. And is there any specific reason why people are buying
to be honest, I don't have, like, I tried to look into it. I just think like there's like a massive, the thing is, what people don't realize, that Telegram just has like a massive like core crypto community, and like a lot of these people are into Pepe and like these like OG collections and like the historic aspect of like crypto. I mean, it's for the same reason, like whether it was chimpers, whether it's been like Azukis, their stickers have been selling out like crazy. Even like the holders are not able to get them across. So it just like seems like there's like a lot of people with crypto wallets over there that are absolutely just like having their 2021 moment. I don't know what the hell's happening, but it's kind of hard to find this information on CT.
So basically what it looks like is they came out somewhere in January, February, traded it in February at around 300, 400 ton, been at that price point until I would say the end of March, with occasional spikes up. And then they slowly started creeping up all the way to, I think this is an outlier here, and this probably doesn't count, but all the way up to 5K ton where they're now. But like really the majority of the movement has happened in May to June.
Interesting. Okay.
CT is just like so sidelined with everything. Like I feel like if anything, like the more we are progressing into this cycle, I'm just like, CT is just like so sidelined with everything.
Yeah. I think the first place, I think definitely people are kind of stuck in the meme coin arena still, and I think we've definitely moved past that, at least for now. Okay, that's really interesting. Glad you brought that up, Rahim. Let's carry on, get everyone up to with everything else going on in the space. You had Strategy announcing a 10,000 Bitcoin buy for $1 billion. It did announce that yesterday. Trump's True Social files for dual Bitcoin and ETH ETF. The family involvement is just going through the roof, as we've already spoken about on the show many times. We have Meme Strategy acquiring 2.4K of Sol. Stock rises 20% following the announcement. This is interesting. Pump, okay, we always say this, on very, very low volume on pre-markets, which should not be taken as indicative in any way, but it's a data point. Pump Fund is trading at 6 billion on pre-markets with just $78,000 of volume. Remember, they're going to be doing their $1 billion raise at a 4 billion valuation at some point soon. So trading at a little bit of a premium to that raise at the moment, albeit on very, very low volume. But be curious for your thoughts on that in a sec. And then Rec Drink sell out 2,222 limited edition cases with Jupiter. LiquidLaunch makes it onto the Hyperliquid strict list, and the Pump Fund X account, along with the Founders X account and other meme coin platforms, were all suspended off X yesterday. So just a mindful point to remember that, I don't know, you've got to look after your X account. It's super important. You don't want to get suspended, and that has been happening in the last 24 hours. So that is the roundup, guys. Before we get into the main stuff, I've got an interesting conversation to have, but want to hear from you. Ledge first, anything catching your attention there? What are you interested in?
Yeah, a couple of things. I think there's like something bigger going on with X right now. It seems to be a bigger bandwave. I think Shaw makes magic. AI16Z is gone as well for the moment, which also led to some of the related prices, ELISA, etc., dumping as well. So it does seem like X is cracking down on a bunch of accounts as well. Maybe continuing on that pump trajectory. Well, obviously, the ban will probably impact some of the pre-market trading volume and add some additional insecurity about that. But I wouldn't find 6 billion to be completely unreasonable. Obviously, as you said, 78K volume or whatever it is up to now is by no means any relevant volume. But being up 50% from whatever they're raising at, even if that would only be a small peak, once the TG happens, I don't think that's completely out of the world. The other thing I wanted to touch on is LiquidLaunch. We spoke about that yesterday. I feel like LiquidLaunch is really a 2x leveraged exposure on Hyperliquid. Like, it did go up to 67 cents yesterday. Let me quickly see if I can get the chart up. And as Hype went down 10%, this thing went down 30%, was down 20%. It's dumping apparently more and more. So it really seems to match what Hype is doing, but just with a 2 to 3x leverage. It reminded me of what Rahim was saying when it comes to Pepe, how he likes to trade Pepe as a basically 3x leveraged play on ETH, but without the risk of being liquidated.
Yeah, it would be interesting to overlay that chart with Hype, because just purely anecdotally, it feels like exactly as you just described, and we've been speaking about that the last few days. I would never feel confident enough to be like, oh, I don't need Hype. I'm just going to buy LiquidLaunch. And I think the reason for that is partly, look, if the thesis plays out and there's loads more Hype EVM activity, that would be great. Remember, LiquidLaunch is the place where you can launch tokens on Hyperliquid. However, there is a reasonable counterpoint to all of that, which is Hype EVM will, even if you're going to do stuff on Hype EVM, you're going to do valuable things, it might never be the best place to launch tokens. And I say that with a pretty significant bag of LiquidLaunch. It's not obvious to me that people like, running tokens up and launching tokens on Hyperliquid will be ever as popular as it was on Solana, for example. So I think there's a reasonable question mark there, because it's kind of in Solana's culture to do that, whereas that in Hyperliquid's culture, maybe not yet, but the culture is still kind of forming. So that would be the kind of counterpoint to FUD my own bags, which is kind of unnecessary, but that's what I've done. Okay. Rahim, anything catching your attention before we get into the main stuff?
Yeah, I think the article that was posted by Ovi on the whole, like his launch with on Solana, and he essentially wrote this like super long article on like the concept of like Web4. I recommend everyone reading it because I think it was like a super insightful one. And just to like summarize, he's essentially saying that he quotes Mew from Jupe, and he mentioned something like, okay, if we think of Web3 as like this layer of where you can own assets on chain and basically like trade them, the concept of Web4 is essentially decentralizing the ability to create coins and create those token ecosystems. And he's like, of course, I'm just like making up these terms, but he's like, no one's forcing me not to, so I'm gonna just like create that. But I think like I've been like really looking into how the whole Rec token has been doing. At its like bottom, it was trading at like 15 mil. So they launched at like like a small a market cap. They weren't chasing listings. I just think like the way they've sold around like 600,000, more than 600,000 cans, which is ridiculous to do in the traditional world, because selling beverages is like, and getting shelf space in like 7-Eleven or whatever, because these shelf spaces are crowded. So getting a new product in where there's no market demand per se in the traditional sense is super hard. So I recommend everyone to just like read that article if you're just into the adoption side of crypto. I just think it was super insightful.
Yeah, I think they've been doing an awesome job. I read the articles by both of them. I think Meow wrote one as well, the founder of Jupiter. Just figuring out how to take some of these brands and products more mainstream, including the physical aspect. So, and yeah, they've been doing an awesome job. I'm very curious to see how they roll out the 7-Eleven, one of the biggest convenience stores in the States, how they're going to be rolling some of those out in the physical locations in the next, I think it's the next week or so. They're going to be out in LA. So I'm looking forward to that too. Just a quick shout out to some people in the comments. Fran said on the Telegram markets, these are specific Telegram markets. You can't trade them on OpenSea. Telegram, agreeing with you, Telegram has a shit ton of users and they like limited edition stickers. Also cool Web3 IP. And someone else in the comments. No one else specifically talking about the Telegram stuff, but that is very interesting. So let's get into maybe the first. Oh, okay. Big question before we get into the main headlines. There's a big conversation yesterday, boys, about the Trump involvement, and we've been saying a lot on the show. Like, it's a bit much. It's a bit much, guys. Like, okay, you've got Trump media trying to buy Bitcoin. You've got Trump ETFs. You've got World Liberty Fi. You've got Tron forming some kind of public company. And as part of that announcement, it was announced that Eric Trump was expected to take a role at the company. That has been denied by Eric Trump. He said, I think Justin Sun is an icon of the industry, but it is not true. The part that I'll be kind of taking a role with them. Maybe this is going into my headline about the Tron news anyway, so we'll kind of deal with these two things together. But so Tron is obviously planning to go public and form a master style company. And I guess the implication was that as part of this deal, I think Justin Sun, who's the founder of Tron, who had been being investigated or was being sued by the SEC in 2023, now that is going to be paused. The civil lawsuit in the US against Sun has been put on hold. He obviously bought 25 mil of Trump coin. No, sorry, I think he invested. Okay, let me get this right. He bought a certain amount of Trump coin, and separately he increased his investment in World Liberty Fi, which is Trump's kind of DeFi project, or the Trump family's DeFi project. He increased that investment to 75 mil. So, and in addition, Justin Sun's Tron network also listed USD1, which is a stablecoin issued by World Liberty Fi. So they've clearly been like working together in each other's, I don't know, business pockets. Like they're aligned, right? And I guess part of the question here has been, well, there was some lawsuit going. Why has that been put on hold? I think it's obvious why that kind of thing happens. If you're going to be in business with someone, you're not going to investigate them at the same time. Or if you want to be in business with someone, you're going to have to make that investigation stop. That's not going to be. We're not doing business with each other whilst you are simultaneously going to indict me on something. So I think that's fairly obvious. But that has led people to start asking questions and say, well, look, this is so far away. And we have expressed this kind of the pessimistic outlook here is this is so far away from what crypto is supposed to be, right? It's just so far away. Like, although people are excited that prices are going up, this is a long way away from the spirit and ethos of what crypto was supposed to be. So the quote that Legendary has on the screen at the moment was in response to an icebergy tweet. We're saying AOC is going to send us all to zero when this is over, assuming that people are going to get so sick of this that it's going to bring in. Now, I appreciate there's other takes here. It was like, look, that kind of left-leaning party in the States, or someone who is that far to the left, wouldn't be able to gather the support of the general population, which I think is a fair point. But Moon's response to this, Moon Overlord, who's like one of the most prominent accounts on Twitter, always has great takes, in my opinion, said, exit crypto with 1 to 2 years left in the Trump presidency. He's now made it his thing, and now it's political and ruined. That was on the back of a previous tweet he wrote, which was this one, where he said, think the Trump family ruins crypto forever, honestly. It'll end up like every other one of his businesses. Unfortunate, but at least I know when to fully exit forever. Coinbase is sponsoring the military, and we cheer for BlackRock to steal everyone's coins. It's over. Not going to say anything more. Want to hear your takes, guys. I think this is a very interesting conversation to have. I've got some thoughts. Want to hear you first. Legendary first, then Rahim, and I'm guessing Phunky's hand just went up. I knew he was going to have a take on it, but I was thinking that when I checked, it would be there already. Right, Legendary first.
Yeah, I don't think that. So if one family can ruin crypto forever, then it was never meant to be. That's my thinking on that. I don't think that the Trump family is ruining crypto or has the power to do that. I do think that the pendulum has been swinging very, very strongly in favor of all things crypto, and it's not in a state of equilibrium. And we'll see that action reverse at some point in the future, and then find an equilibrium later after that. But I don't think that this is what we are seeing. Then I also think that the majority of people in the market are in this market because they want to make money. So I find it a bit hypocritical that we always go back to, but now BlackRock is here and the institutions is here. Yeah, but these are the guys who are bidding BTC up to 100 plus K. We've seen that analysis by River where it came to the ETF inflows, where it clearly showed that was a US company, where it clearly showed that a lot of the inflows are being carried by institutions. I think it was like 40% of that. And obviously they create like a very favorable environment that then is enticing retail investors to also go in alongside with them. And it's kind of like the old discussion with centralization, decentralization. I had a post this day. Someone came to comment on that, was something to do with Tether. Yeah, but Tether is not decentralized. Tether is very centralized. I'm like, yeah, it's true. Tether can basically freeze your assets. So can USDC. So can every L2. So can Hype could do that. Blast did that when hackers hacked funds. It's like always the same. When people get hacked or protocols get hacked and people lose money, we cry, oh, please help me get my money back. And when that's not happening, everyone's like, oh, this is centralized. Why is it centralized? So I feel like we kind of don't really know what we want, but we like to complain. And the reality is, yes, it's against the ethos of crypto. Yes, BTC is an asset that's maybe a bit different to that, but the majority of this cycle is being driven by the fact that we have significant stablecoin adoption by centralized institutions and that we have significant interest by institutional players into crypto. So that's the world that we're currently living in. And I feel like both things can be true. It is, again, it's against the ethos of crypto. BTC is a bit different to that, but we also have to be realistic enough to acknowledge that this is one of the main price drivers right now that we are benefiting from. And under that light, Moon Overlord's second post, which was to say, and at least I know when to take profits as a result of that, is a very fair one. I don't think it's over with Trump, but I do think that the pendulum will swing the other way, and we'll see a lot of the positive things kind of like being taken away or being regulated again some point in the future. And there will be definitely a point in time in the future to take profits and sit the next bear market out.
Okay. A lot to unpack there. I think there's a lot of good stuff. I think when you talk about stuff being regulated out soon, I've got a feeling that's happening already, because I'm just going to search on Google. This was something It's like the crypto market structure bill. I read something yesterday where it's like this is getting held up because some of the wording they want to put. This is just something I read on Twitter, so I want to try to verify it before. Maybe Raheem, let me come to you first. Let's say Phunky's taken. Let me just research this other bit because I want to try and get it right. Because it's exactly to your point of like trying to stop one set of people profiteering off the ascent of this kind of new industry that they're bringing in. Raheem, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to like go on this like opposite take of what you were saying as well, and kind of Ledge kind of made some fair points. And just sticking to something that you said, I actually don't think it's against the ethos of crypto. Like when we talk about like a permissionless world, that includes it being permissionless for everyone. We can't be like, oh, it's permissionless for the everyday consumer, but oh, government and institutions, we don't want you to come in. So I just don't think like that argument works. And it goes back to what like Ledge was saying. It's just like it's important for us to note that, and I remember I used to talk about this a lot in like 2021 during the NFT hacks, that from a scientific point of view, if you look at it from like an evolutionary biology point of view, we were not wired to live in a decentralized society, whether it was a pack of wolves, whether it's like, you know, the way we socialize in societies where we are looking for like some sort of an influencer to be a curator for information, whether it comes to, I don't know, like gym supplements or whatever. So I just think like there's this world where people need to realize that this whole journey is going to take its course, and we're going to have like our ups and downs. But I think like, yeah, I think like a permissionless world is open for everyone. In fact, there was a tweet that was put out by Stats, I believe like last week, where he was asking what are the arguments for Bitcoin to be like running smoothly as an ecosystem when the mining rewards go down super low. And everyone's having like their own thoughts. I don't think anyone has a concrete argument. The only slightly argument that I think has like a lot more legs is basically a lot of people saying that eventually what would happen is governments and institutions would end up owning so much crypto that this would become like a political thing where they would want to keep mining within their country or within their territory, and arguably the nation states would be the ecosystem that ends up stabilizing all of this. I remember Phunky commenting something around that as well, so I'm curious to hear his extended thoughts on this.
Okay, straight to you, Phunky. What's your take here? Do you think that this hyper increased involvement of the Trump family is going to prove to be a very nice indicator of when to exit some of these markets at some point soon?
Well, Rahem loves when I'm concise, so I'm going to say yes. Just insofar as what you guys have said for a very long time, which is the midterm elections are probably going to be the end of this, because we're going to see maybe probably a more balanced, kind of Congress, because of so many Democrats are probably going to win back some of the seats. That being said, I think Legendary said everything that I was going to say anyhow. I think the only thing that's really died in all of this is what I've said many times before, the cypherpunk ethos, the original vision that was very libertarian, very anti-government. But at the end of the day, we're all pragmatists. We all want to see our bags pumped. So I think having the institutions and governments involved is going to do exactly that. Another thing of note, just because we've been talking about stable coins, today they're actually voting on the Genius Act in the Senate. So it could actually finally pass. So today's the big vote for the Genius Act. And then the House is going to have a choice on whether to reconcile their stable act with the Genius one. But I think, B, what you were talking about is the Clarity Act, because I know the Blockchain Association was trying to get member input on the Clarity Act. I don't have a whole lot of details on this because I've just been swamped in so many other things. But I do have the Blockchain Association monthly member meeting today. So hopefully tomorrow, if you want to pick up this conversation, I might have some more details on that.
Okay, I can't actually find it at the moment. I'm using Grok to try and find the thing that I need, but maybe we'll circle back to it tomorrow. Okay, so yeah, appreciate it. Takes Phunky. My final concluding point after listening to everyone else before we move on to the next headline is, I just look. I think crypto could be, if it becomes obvious that the next administration beyond Trump is not going to be Republican. I think crypto could like just get a bit more volatile again. That's fine. Crypto's always been volatile, so I don't see that as a particularly big deal. But the bigger point I would try to make for all of us is that speculation has not just happened in the last few years when crypto kind of was invented. It does make it easier for all of us to participate in it, and it doesn't mean that that was the first opportunity for us to participate, though. So I think the opportunities to speculate will go on forever, because speculation is not a new concept. It will go on forever. And I think that the new forms of speculation will naturally take place in this environment, even if it's not a meme coin, or if it's not Bitcoin itself, or if it's not something else. It's going to take place in this environment, because this is where the cutting edge of the future is residing. So I think the future of speculation will still be here. And the reason why, kind of zooming out even further, we called the show The Modern Market, and we talked about, we know we talk about crypto, we talk about NFTs, and plus any other way to make money on the internet. Like this, the internet is going to be the way to make money. If the way to make money is humanoid robots in 3 years, and crypto is in a downturn, but humanoid robots are taking off, that's what we'll talk about on the show, because we have the flexibility to go where the money is and focus on the next bubble of speculation. The reason why we've gone into whatever we're in now is because that's where the bubble is. We'll go into AI coins when that's necessary, and we'll go into other stuff and keep going back to Bitcoin until that is proven not to be the case. So speculation will not stop. Maybe there's some volatility in crypto moving forward, but I'm not even convinced of that, frankly.
Maybe 20 years later, we're going to look back on the funniest bubbles we had covered in 2 decades of the modern market.
Yeah, we'll go through and like map out all the trends of the things that we ended up focusing on. It'll be pretty crazy. Yeah, I think English's comment in YouTube, we have until 2030 really to make outsized gains. I think that's, yeah, who knows? I think the outsized gains will continue to decrease, at least in the majors, but they'll always be like, so this is the thing, right? What do we even define as crypto? AI agents came out of absolutely nowhere. And but it existed within crypto. So maybe there'll be something else that exists within crypto. There'll be just another thing. Kaito came out of nowhere, but it's like crypto adjacent, right? So it's like crypto, Bitcoin, maybe that vol goes down, but you have all these crypto adjacent industries, whether it's crypto content or crypto and AI or crypto, who knows? There'll be another 7 in the next 7 years. And you'll be best positioned to take part in those things, I think. So that's my general thought. Certainly not overly bearish, and wouldn't position myself anywhere else as an industry. The 2 things I'd be looking at maybe is humanoid robots and energy. Energy generally, I think, is something I'm intrigued by, but maybe that's a conversation for another day. Okay, next headline, Ledge. I kind of done the Tron stuff, even though I didn't do all the details, but I think that's sufficient. Why don't you give us the general roundup of what's going on in the market and what you think is important about it?
Yeah, we got a couple political updates. Yesterday's been a wild day in the stock market. Markets in the US opened very, very strongly. We had obviously stocks like a Circle doing another 20% on the day, but all of them correcting towards the end of the day. That was not only for Circle, that was for lots of stocks. Now the pre-market again is looking a bit more positive. So there's definitely a lot of volatility going on in the market. Again, this time it probably has to do with the Middle Eastern conflict with Israel and Iran. Also has to do with the volatility of the oil price, which is something we touched on yesterday. So I'm not going to get into that again. Instead, I'm going to provide a bit of an update of what has been going on the Trump side, so to speak, because it is, at the end of the day, a very headline-driven, a very political market. So Trump did leave the G7 summit a bit early, and there's been speculation as to why he did that. Probably the best thing is to go straight to the source, Truth Social, that is, and I have a post there by Donald J. Trump where he is saying, and I'm quoting, "Publicity-seeking President Emmanuel Macron of France mistakenly said that I left the G7 summit in Canada to go back to DC to work on a quote-unquote ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Wrong. He has no idea why I am now on my way to Washington, but it certainly has nothing to do with a ceasefire. Much bigger than that. Whether purposely or not, Emmanuel always gets it wrong. Stay tuned." There's been a couple more posts on that. Trump has been doubling down on that rhetoric, saying that he has not reached out to Iran for peace talks in any way, shape, or form. This is just more highly fabricated fake news. If they want to talk, they know how to reach me. They should have taken the deal that was on the table, would have saved a lot of lives. He's definitely saying that this is not something that is going on at the moment. the market seems to have a contrasting take on that. I'm bringing up the poly market. Well, on that, don't want to call it a bet. Really sounds a bit sinister. And it is U.S. military action against Iran before August. That is now up to a 61% chance. It did go earlier today, late evening. U.S. did go as high as 75%. So market thinks that might be a thing, especially if there's been reports of both like aircrafts and tankers moving from the States towards Europe, moving east, but not with an unknown final destination, at least unknown to the general public. That's it on the conflict side. That's it on the Middle Eastern side. Separate to that, we have some more positive news. That is progress on the UK-US tariff deal. But Trump did sign an order confirming parts of that deal. A couple of things to pick out from that deal is that there's going to be a 10% tariff on most UK goods, including cars, but there's also going to be some interesting exceptions or quotas, I shall say, which is, for example, that the US would allow up to 100,000 cars into the US at a 10% tariff instead of the 25% import tax. And the goal there is that comes from the UK government to go further, make progress towards 0% tariffs on core steel products as agreed. So there's definitely been some significant progress on that end. My read of the entire situation, again, a period of increased volatility that you can either try to trade and catch days like yesterday where the market is running, or even like hours like yesterday. If you just look at the US Open, first couple of hours have been very, very good. And then try to sell out of those positions. If you're not much of a day trader, I'd probably rather sit that one out and just try to ignore that noise as much as possible.
Okay. Thanks very much for that summary. That's super helpful. Interesting take for me is, well, it's not even that interesting, but it does appear that, the psychology of setting some like outrageous tariff rate and then bringing it down to 10%, suddenly everyone forgets the fact that there's even a tariff versus, the initial real consternation that, oh my God, there's going to be tariffs. Well, if you tell them it's going to be some super high number, now everyone's settled at 10, everyone seems pretty happy with that. So I think that's definitely been a bit of magic that's been worked here. But gosh, my overall thought when you're just talking about all of this stuff going on, these are a lot of headwinds, right? Like it's just so many headwinds, and Bitcoin's still at 105. And admittedly, like, okay, fine, things have dipped a little bit today. And maybe if things continue to get worse, maybe they dip a bit more. But I'm still very, very encouraged by the relative strength of all of the main crypto assets that we've been speaking about against multiple headwinds here now, because you've got this significant trading set of issues with the whole world that the US is trying to negotiate. Europe being one block, but China being the main kind of thing to figure out. And then this escalating conflict. I mean, Ukraine and Russia's hardly finished either, is it? And then Iran and Israel now, in addition, serious headwinds. I'm still inclined to lean towards the ideas like if they're just cleared out of the way in some way, that really opens up even more space to move up, I think. That's my inclination at the moment. Phunky, your hand is raised. What's your take here?
I'm going to put on my political correspondent hat here again, and also come from the perspective of a 50-year-old man who's lived through much of my life as, the whole Iranian Revolution, 1979, where we are today, geopolitics, whatever. Just a couple things. These are all speculative, right? I think Trump just walks away from the G7 and all that stuff because he doesn't need to. Israel is effectively a U.S. proxy, right? We give them all their weapons. We're doing what everybody, or at least in the West, has wanted to see, right? Iran, basically the regime being taken out. I think it's interesting that China and Russia haven't really said anything. They're not making moves to move in to help Iran, which has always been their, on the whole East versus West thing, that's been their proxy in the region. I think that we do not get involved. I feel like that's just him buying time for Israel. I mean, if these reports are true and what we're seeing, that Israel already owns all the airspace over Iran, they continue to bomb and take out, nation state things with impunity, that people apparently are shooting AK-47s into the sky at drones and jets. I mean, if it really is that bad already, Trump is a power guy. Why on earth would he ever want to concede to having talks when he knows that Israel has Iran on the ropes, right? Like, there's no point. And the US doesn't have to get involved because they already have such a dominant position. So I think that, to your point, B, this hopefully, because it's bad for humanity, right? Like, no one wants to see this. We're seeing all this footage of people who are Iranian, who, want to see the regime change. They probably felt much of their lives have been lived, under hostage of this particular regime since the Iranian Revolution back in 1979. So I think that I would hope that we have just a de-escalation over the coming days and weeks to the point where Iran just basically surrenders, and then that clears up everything and we all move forward. I mean, that I think it would be the best situation. Again, I'm just speculating, but I just feel like the US Trump does not want to get involved. We don't want to get in a hot war. We already have a proxy there with Israel using US weapons. And it's already shown that they just are demonstrably superior and they can't be stopped. So hopefully it just gets put to bed very soon.
Yes. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, I take your point. I think you're probably correct in saying that there are a number of people, including Iranians, who are not the biggest fan of the current regime. The only kind of twist, it's not really a twist of the point, but the alternative perspective I have seen some of is that I'm not sure that, whilst I think people can agree that the regime may not be the best one, also a question mark as to what extent the US wants to get dragged into any more things. And the question would be, why would they need to be dragged in to kind of support Israel in its endeavors? That would be like, I guess it's not two sides of the same coin, but just maybe the alternative view as well. But look, I think a lot of the context there is very helpful. How do we move off this then? Rahim, do you have any final take here? It seems like the market is still kind of fine, frankly. What's your view?
Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday on a call about, like, you see like so much discourse happening in the world, but I feel like even just like even before, if you look at like all the tariff news, I feel like the more they started coming, the lesser and lesser impact we saw on like the markets. And I think if you think about it, like that's like the crypto vision, right? Like the long-term vision, Satoshi's vision in his white paper was essentially us moving away from like geopolitical discourse deciding the fate of our currency. And I like that we're getting closer and closer. And of course, like there will be moments where the disparity will be like massive. But I do think like it's a nice, like I'm happy about it, because like about like how price action should be, because like fundamentally, like like just like when I explain crypto to people, I'm always like, the logic of you being able to provide for your family shouldn't change because the government is taking certain decisions. And that is a sentiment that everyone like fucks with. Like they're like, you know what, you're right. Like, if I'm working a 9 to 5, why should it change like what the value of my currency is because like my leader or my government takes a certain role? So I think like, yeah, we are getting more and more into that world, and I'm excited for that, for crypto to happen. And I hope we can get to a point where a lot of people don't have like so much power over financial world. It's a utopian world, but I guess that's what the whole decentralization fight is for,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a nice point to make. Maybe a final thing on the war stuff is just like, guys, at some point as well, I don't really know, to be honest. Like, it's clearly above our heads a little bit. We're doing our best to like get some core information across. We see the same things that you guys see. We do as much reading as we can, but it's like complex history kind of tied up in two very proud nations, which we are certainly not experts on. So, exercise some compassion, even in us, like trying to handle some of these topics, which are clearly above our heads. We're trying to do it as best we can as it relates to the market specifically. Right. Final headline here, boys, before we close up. I thought this was kind of big, Rahim, although it's not like final or definitive. What do we need to know about this JPMorgan coin?
So essentially, like there was a filing at the U.S. Patent Office under JPMD. What the filing says, and I quote the Decrypt article, which says trading, exchange, transfer, and payment services for digital assets. So that's all it says. People are speculating of trying to understand what that like really means, whether it's a stable coin, whether it's like not a stable coin. We don't have much information on this. It is noteworthy to talk about, and because we've talked about Jamie Damon's optics and perspective on like crypto before, that he obviously doesn't like Bitcoin, he doesn't like crypto, but he's talked about how they use blockchain tech in their ecosystem because he believes in the value of the tech. And JP Morgan Chase has like an ecosystem that they launched. They have a coin called the JPM coin that was launched in 2019. The difference over here, it's run on like a very private network, so the blockchain is not open for everyone, and it's only for their clients. So it's important for us to make that distinction. But at the moment, we don't have a lot of information on what JPMD stands for. There was a gentleman named Zachary Roth, I believe, who from Aptos, who was talking about that. I think he made like a good point, which is like, okay, clearly the institutions and governments, they are not buying our alts, but they are buying the tech. And I think stablecoin ecosystems have like proven to be good tech. We obviously spoke about, Ledge brought up like Circle before. We've seen how like their IPO has been doing. Plasma ended up like raising so much amount of money. So, and going back to what Phunky was saying, we are expecting the Genius Act to hopefully pass today. So I think it kind of makes headway towards all of these companies filing into launching stable coins. So yeah, I think it's important to note that, okay, maybe the JPM coin, which existed for them, it's more B2B ecosystem. It's on a private network. It's only for JP Morgan clients, but maybe this is what they're basically launching this for a more retail usage, just like USDC and USDT.
Okay. I like it. Thanks very much for the summary. It's clearly of significance that the bank's going to kind of launch their own. So we'll keep an eye on that. Rahim just mentioned Plasma there, Legendary. You have been tweeting a couple of times in the last 24, 48 hours. I think in response, actually, I don't know why I saw this yesterday, but I missed it off the snapshot. Plasma announced that they have capped the deposits. So remember, just last week or so, Plasma, the new stablecoin chain, which is backed by Tether, did a multiple raises. And this raise was not a pre-sale; it was kind of a bootstrapping of liquidity for the new chain. And the money that goes in determines what your allocation will be for the pre-sale. So they first got 250 mil in on the first day, immediately opened it further. Another 250 mil went in. That's 500 mil in total. Then unexpectedly, they raised the caps again to 1 bill. So they have 500 mil extra that got sold out very, very fast within 30 minutes or so. And so there's $1 billion in the vault to be transported to Plasma when they go live. And what that means is all the people who have bought in, they will now get an allocation for the pre-sale. And the pre-sale is they're raising $50 million at a 500 mil fully diluted valuation. Ledge, coming back to you here, Rahim mentioned the exposure to stable coins. How are you viewing this new Plasma value proposition now that the deposit cap is closed, now that people can kind of feel more confident and know like what that investment, quote unquote, is what it looks like?
I think it's an extremely generous round, that Plasma structured like that, especially as they kept the deposit cap at $1 billion.
Explain why.
So basically what happened is, or what's happening is, there's this $50 million pre-sale. And now at the deposit cap of $1 billion, it means there's a 20-to-1 ratio. So for every $20 you put in, you get a $1 ticket. For every 100K you put in, you get a 5K ticket, basically. So many people have been making the argument it is a whale's game. And if you look at the stats, you might think that this is the case because there's only 2,930 wallets who got in one of the 3 rounds, if you want to call them 3 rounds, because they did one and opened the next one a couple minutes after. With, I think, an average deposit of what was it, like 350K or so? So anywhere between 300 and 400K. But the thing is, there was no minimum deposit. And the thing is that also people with smaller amounts did get in. And I don't think that it's fair to call it a whales game for that reason. It's definitely favorable for whales, because if you think that 500 mil for something that could be the Tether chain, especially looking at how Circle is trading right now, is a very, very low FTV. And you think even if it goes to 5 bill, that's a 10x on your investment, which ultimately means you get, so say you put in 100K, you do a 5K ticket that goes to 50K, you made 45% on your 100K in stables as a return, which is extremely, extremely good, especially if you can do that with every size. And I feel like a lot of people are sidelined to that. A lot of people have been saying, oh, that's not too bad to miss out on 45% return. But I think the key point there is to say you put in stables, you will see a return, because this is not going to trade at 500 mil. And you can literally play it with almost any size. There's like not many places where you can comfortably be, I'm going to put in 50 mil. I'm going to put in my entire stablecoin portfolio. I'm going to put in 100K, 500K, whatever it is. And that, I think, makes it a very, very interesting deal. And I know that the comparison to call it like, to compare to Circle is not perfect, because one's obviously a publicly traded company. The other one then is a pre-sale for a token, which CT is framing or is trying to push and build this narrative, which I like, and which I used myself, the wording as like tether chain. But nonetheless, these are like the two closest competitors, USDT, USDC. The proxy to profit of USDC success is to look at the Circle stock, and the proxy for USDT could be Plasma. That's what the market is looking at right now. And for those reasons, I think that this was a very, very interesting opportunity. And again, I was like surprised that I wasn't surprised that it sold out in minutes, because obviously whales had the appetite and interest to put money in, including CBB, who I think put 32 million or so. But I was surprised that a lot of like the mainstream CT accounts have been ignoring this completely.
Yeah, I think this is what happens. I think Plasma operates on a different plane on crypto Twitter. And crypto Twitter, I think what people need to realize is it's really bifurcated. Is that the right word? It's just people are doing very, very different things now. If you came in 2021 and you're obsessed with NFTs and culture, and you like partying, and you like going to all of these conferences around the world, you like having fun, like Plasma is a stablecoin blockchain. It is the Tether chain, but it is like proper business. They're like, this is going to be partnering with different the best business people in different continents in order to like build out the financial rails to get stablecoins into these USDT, into all these people's hands on Plasma. It's like proper, in some ways, boring stablecoin business. It is not Bored Ape Yacht Club, Ape Fest. It is not Azuki, cool fashion. It is not like, so a lot of the people who I think became popular, at least in some circles in 2021 and maybe beyond, it's not ordinals. It's not like, this is like proper business. So I think it's just important to create, well, look, there's money to be made in all of the angles here. Like you can make money in the cultural side, you can make money on the meme coin side, and you can make money on the Plasma side. But I think that probably explains a little bit, or that's my reading of why some people might have missed this. It's just, it's not their speciality. And I think increasingly our show, or at least from my perspective, our interests will go more this route, because I think we're better placed to understand those value props. And Ledge, to be honest, the way that you described it was exactly correct. Like you can't turn your nose up at 40-50% on unlimited stables. Okay, fine, you got to lock up for a few months. Okay, fine, it's the summer. Like,
yeah, but everyone in the real world would call you a con artist if you walk up to them like, hey, would you like to increase your net worth by 50%? All you have to do is to lock it up for a couple of months. And you're like, sure. But this actually could be the case here if it pulls a 10x. And again, even if it doesn't do that, if it goes to 1 bill, 2 bill, whatever it does, it's going to be a pretty outsized return for just putting stables to work. That's certainly better than the 5% base yield that you would get farming a year. And yes, I know there's better places than 5% to farm, but that's just the base yield that we kind of have established for stablecoins. So I do think that especially being able to go in with size, which you typically cannot do very often in crypto, not with many things, is what made it really enticing to whales.
100%. We'll come back to this tweet. I can't find it at the moment, but I think my bear case is 2 bill. My better case is like 5 to 10, and then anything above 10, in the end they're going to be targeting Tron, right? That's at 20 bill. As in, they might not be targeting it immediately, but that's the blockchain that's used for stablecoin payments at the moment. So that's the number that people should be looking at, and that's at 20. So I mean, I don't know that can get that far when they're just starting out, but who knows what people can meme this to. So I'm expecting at least a 10x, 4 to 10, like worst case scenario, and then for there it's just like additional upside. But let's see. I want to come back to that tweet that I put out, and we will check my prediction in the future. But guys, that is our show. We've run over a little bit of time. I hope you found it interesting, and that's why you stuck around. As usual, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time, for 1 hour live on X video, YouTube, and you can catch us on Apple and Spotify podcasts too. Thank you so much to my co-hosts, Legendary and Rahim. That was a really interesting conversation. Thanks for Phunky as well for jumping up and contributing as always. Always super helpful to hear from you. And thank you for joining us. Thank you to the YouTube commentors, the Twitter commentors, and special shout out to all the people clipping our show. We've noticed a lot more people making those clips. We're enjoying them a lot. We see them. I try to like them and comment on them. We appreciate all of you for getting involved. Thanks so much for joining us. We will be back in with you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.